afternoon, everyone. My name is Smriti. And today I'm here to tell you that you are what you eat. You may have all heard this saying before, and I'm also here to tell you that most of us have been eating really terribly. Now, I know what you're thinking. Smriti, are you okay? I meet my protein requirement for the day, and an apple a day is practically my middle name. But you are what you eat goes beyond what you're chewing and digesting. It goes into what you consume. We humans are consumers. We don't like to think of ourselves that way. We like to think of ourselves as being at the highest echelons of species here on Earth because we are makers, we are creators. But truly, we are all consumers as well. We consume art, media, literature, and especially in today's age, technology and digital media. Now, if you are what you eat applies to the things that we literally eat and digest, it of course applies to everything that you consume. Which is why today we will be talking about authenticity and social media and how the content that we consume online can actually have a real observable impact on all of our lives and our behaviors, and especially our personalities. So first, while we talk about authenticity, let's first define it. Merriam-Webster calls it the action of being true to one's own personality, spirit, or character. Or put simply, being true to oneself. To me, authenticity is being able to walk into a room, behave perfectly normal as yourself, and being able to walk out of that same room not worried about how other people perceived you. It's powerful, it's strong, it's a superpower, but it's also a choice. And in today's world where external influences seem to be pulling in from every single direction, it's difficult to practice this. But while we speak about authenticity, we can't speak about authenticity without talking about Barbie. So many of you may have seen this film, and even if you haven't seen the Barbie movie, which came out in 2023, you've surely heard about it in some way. Why? Because Barbie is a masterclass in marketing. In fact, the PR for this movie was done so well that colleges all across the country study the Barbie movie for its marketing strategies. It sold its aesthetic as pink, vibrant, and whimsical. It was a movie about girl power and embracing femininity. And we saw this on social media as well. People started embracing more colorful styles, pastels, pinks, and embracing femininity out loud. We also saw the rise of a literal core or a literal sect of fashion online. It was called Barbiecore, where suddenly everyone was dressing bright, pink, and embracing femininity. Now, the exact opposite with this next show, Wednesday, which came out a little bit after. Now suddenly, everyone wanted to be dressing in dark academia styles, witty and morbid. Wednesday is the exact opposite of Barbie. She doesn't really care about what other people think about her, to the point where sometimes she can disregard others' feelings. Yet, she was so well loved with the same Gen Z audience. Why? Because the marketing was done so well. On social media, we saw how people suddenly wanted to dress like Wednesday, act like Wednesday, learn how to play cello, and be able to recite Edgar Allan poetry from memory. Now, we see how social media changes people's lives directly because influencers do what the algorithm rewards. And in turn, influencers can influence us and our personalities. So what is personality exactly? Personality is a pattern of thoughts and behaviors. It encompasses the unique patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that shape how individuals interact with others and their environment. Personality is all about repetition. And where else do we see repetition? Online, on social media. Think about a song that you've been hearing over and over again. You may not have heard that song directly from the artist, but the second you open your phone and you start scrolling, you hear that song again and again and again. The same thing applies for ideas as well. In fact, once Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels once said, "Repeat the lie enough times, and it transforms into a truth." The same thing applies here. When we see these ideas reinforced again and again through social media, the increased repetition influences our personalities as well, even though we may not think of ourselves as vulnerable. Now, let's talk about the personality changes themselves. So increased social media addiction can actually lead to increased self-monitoring and impression management on social media. Now, we all do this. We all present ourselves slightly differently. Maybe one way when we're with our friends, one way when we're with our parents, and maybe one way with someone that we really want to impress for whatever reason. And this is a normal part part of being human. We are social creatures, and part of that relies on community, because community is important to survival. And we are all engineered to survive, you and me. So, in turn, we start to present ourselves in slightly different ways depending on the people that we're interacting with. But with social media, we start to become hyper aware of how we're presenting ourselves, because we are quite literally recording ourselves and putting it out there in the world for other people to see. And this increased self-monitoring is what causes a lot of anxiety about the way that we're perceived, because we start to change aspects of ourselves that we wouldn't otherwise be concerned about, because other people may have things to say about them, and usually they're negative things. Now, let's talk about the complex impact of social media on empathy. Empathy is a crucial aspect of being human. It is one of the things that defines us and differentiates us from any animal. Now, empathy and social media have a very interesting link, because as studies from the University of Casino show, empathy and social media use are inversely correlated, meaning that the more time someone spends on social media, the more likely they are to develop less empathy. And this is directly related to the phenomenon of desensitization. When we start to see things that are generally concerning, things like war, famine, people in difficult situations, when we see them over and over again on the news, on social media, we start to become desensitized. These things don't even seem as concerning as they actually are, because amidst reels about beauty and skincare and going to the park with your friends, you may see people in very difficult situations, but suddenly it becomes normal. It becomes something that you can simply scroll past, because it's not our reality, and that connection is severed, and that's where empathy starts to lose its connection. Now, when we talk about people online, we have to talk about influencers. They are the quintessential representatives of who we see online. Now, in their very name and their job title, we can kind of see what their job is all about. Influencers. Their job is to influence us. Now, every influencer has some sort of intention. It may not be a malicious one, but their goal is to sell you a product, sell you their videos, or try to promote themselves, because many people try to pursue this as a career. And in today's world, it is very much possible to pursue being an influencer as a full-time career. But what this means is that they too are complicit in this phenomenon where people are portraying themselves very differently online, and in turn causing other people to view themselves differently. A Chinese proverb encapsulates this perfectly. This mountain yearns for that mountain's height. It starts off with, why can't I be as pretty as her? Why can't I have her curls? Why can't I be as smart and successful as her? And it snowballs into a stinging inferiority complex. The grass is always greener on the other side, but we may never stop to consider that it may actually be artificial turf. But when we're caught up in this comparison, it becomes very difficult for us to make those differentiations. How many of you knew that on TikTok, when you make a video and post on their platform, there's automatically a filter applied? You don't even have to apply that filter. It can't even be removed. But TikTok simply takes the liberty of doing that because they want videos that are more attractive to their users on the platform. So this filter smooths out any blemishes, makes your facial features slightly more attractive to their users. And all of this is extremely concerning, but also extremely normal, which is really the problem here. And influencers also face this harsh reality where they are forced to put out content that follows the algorithm, because the algorithm is what is pushing out all of the content that the influencers are putting out. But only certain kinds of content are rewarded. And therefore, influencers put out that kind of content, and in turn, we consume that content. And we start to compare ourselves with people that are using filters and apps and different things that make them look different than they do in real life. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges to authenticity that I spoke about. First, judgment. How many of you have seen something on social media that you actually enjoyed or appreciated, and then scrolled down, looked at the comments, only to see everyone clowning on the creator and making fun of them? Well, I actually thought that was cool, but now that I see everyone is making fun of this person, in real life, when I'm speaking with my peers, I am going to shy away from speaking about this topic because I saw how it was received online, on social media. And that judgment becomes internalized, and we start to carry it with us in our lives. I already spoke about it a little bit, but the algorithm. The algorithm is based on mathematics and computer science. It pushes out the things that people find the most attractive. Every time you double click and you like something, the algorithm marks that as something that you like and continues to push out similar content, because the goal is to get you to scroll for as long as possible, because ultimately these apps are businesses and they need to generate revenue. Third, cyberbullying. This is an extremely serious concern that affects so many people from my generation, Gen Z, especially since social media has become so ubiquitous in today's day and age. People feel like they are easily able to bully others because of the advent of social media, because cyberbullying is accessible. Usually accessible isn't a word that we would use to describe bullying, but really if you think about it, it has become so easy for people to hide behind screens and say hurtful and mean things to other people without even considering that there is a real person behind those screens. Now that we've talked about all of the issues, let's talk about the actionable steps that we can take to cultivate authenticity online. First is mindfulness. If we practice mindful posting and mindful reacting to such posts, we are able to control the way that the algorithm behaves toward us. Think about whether or not this person you follow is someone that you would like to be friends with in real life. Is this a person that is promoting a positive environment, or rather creating a space where inadequacy thrives? Second is limiting comparison. We all do this, especially when we see people online. We are exposed to so many different kinds of people online, and we don't really know what their lives are like. So when we make conclusions about people we see online and start comparing ourselves, it is a conclusion made based on inaccurate data. So don't do it. And third, meaningful engagement, like I said. Engaging in meaningful interactions with others promotes deeper connections and supports authentic expression and creativity. And it's more about just the superficial connection and starts to delve deeper into the true connection and potential that social media has to bring people together. Now, lastly, I would like to leave you with just a few things. First, the price of authenticity is rejection. Authenticity is a choice. It's not a switch you can flip on and off. You have to wake up every day and decide that today I am going to be my best self and going to be true to myself. But that also means that the price of authenticity is rejection. That not everyone is going to like you, not everyone is going to appreciate this new, authentic version of yourself. But that's okay. And knowing that that's okay is the most important thing. And to end off, I would like to leave you all with a quote from one of my favorite poets, Walt Whitman. I am large. I contain multitudes. We are all large. We all contain multitudes. We are wonderfully complex, flawed, beautiful human beings. So never let social media or any other external influence tell you that you have to fit into certain boxes, that you are forced to behave a certain way because others may perceive you in that way. The only thing that you can do in this life is to behave in accordance with your mind and your heart. And that is what will matter in the end. Thank you.